What if the person you idolize isn't as perfect as you think? Have you ever considered that about Mahatma Gandhi? This man, a symbol of peace and non-violence, is revered worldwide. His name is synonymous with India's struggle for independence, his philosophies of non-violence and civil disobedience resonating across the globe. His influence is undeniable, from the civil rights movement in the United States to the anti-apartheid struggles in South Africa. Gandhi's principles have shaped and continue to shape the world's understanding of protest, resistance, and the power of peaceful methods. But was Gandhi as flawless as his reputation suggests, or is there an ugly truth hidden beneath? Digging deeper into Gandhi's life, we find a few unsettling truths. We often see Gandhi as a shining beacon of non-violence and unity, but behind this public image there were a few shadows. One such shadow was his experiments with celibacy. Gandhi believed that sexual desire was a major obstacle on the path to spiritual enlightenment. To test his resolve, he often slept naked with young women, including his own niece. Although Gandhi maintained these experiments were platonic, they were controversial and drew criticism. Another area of contention was Gandhi's stance on the caste system. While he advocated for the upliftment of the untouchables, he did not support the complete abolition of the caste system. He believed that each caste had a role to play in society, a viewpoint that was seen as regressive by many, including Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, a prominent Dalit leader and the architect of the Indian Constitution. Moreover, Gandhi's views on racial equality are also subject to debate. During his time in South Africa, he expressed some views that were seen as prejudiced against the black African population. Although his views evolved over time, his earlier statements have led to criticism and protests, even causing his statues to be removed in some African countries. Gandhi was a man of his time, and like all of us, he was not without flaws. His life's work was to strive for truth and non-violence, yet his actions and views often sparked controversy. His critics argue that his controversial practices and viewpoints overshadow his message of peace and unity. The complexity of Gandhi's character sparks a question that is not easy to answer. So, was Gandhi a saint or a sinner, or perhaps like all of us, somewhere in between? The answer may vary depending on one's perspective. Regardless, his impact on the world and his role in India's struggle for independence cannot be denied. Now let's delve into the dark side of Gandhi's legacy. Often regarded as a beacon of peace and non-violence, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, popularly known as Mahatma Gandhi, had a side to him that's seldom discussed. This side, the ugly truth as we may call it, has its roots in his controversial experiments, his attitude towards African natives during his time in South Africa, and his views on women. Gandhi was known to conduct celibacy tests, where he'd share his bed with young women, including his own niece. His rationale was to test his resolve and purity. However, these experiments were met with widespread criticism and raised ethical concerns. The question remains, could such behavior be justified under the garb of spiritual experiments? Moving on to his time in South Africa, Gandhi's attitude towards the African natives was far from favorable. He often referred to them as Kafirs, a derogatory term, and believed that Indians were superior to Africans. This racial bias is a stark contrast to the principles of equality he preached later in his life. Furthermore, Gandhi's views on women were deeply rooted in traditional Indian norms. He often associated femininity with passivity and believed women to be naturally inclined towards suffering. While he did advocate for women's education and their role in the public sphere, his understanding of women's rights was limited and often contradictory. Yet as we uncover these facets of Gandhi's life, it's essential to not lose sight of the context of his times. His actions and beliefs were shaped by the socio-cultural environment he lived in. While this doesn't absolve him of his controversial acts and views, it does provide a perspective. In the end, Gandhi, like everyone, was a complex individual with his strengths and weaknesses. It's essential to remember this while acknowledging his significant contributions to the world.